Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm back again, and welcome to our first lesson on learning with attitude. If you've all seen my previous interview yesterday that I posted on Facebook, you'll know that this is part of a series of free work lessons that I'm going to be releasing during this lockdown period, especially to help our scholars at school, preferably probably high school or college students who are struggling to learn and who are not able to or feel like they're not able to reach their potential. So please, if you haven't seen the previous one, please look back at that one first. And anyway, this is our first lesson where we're going to look at you, and specifically we're going to look at the subject of attitude. What are attitudes? We all know that our parents have told us, don't like that attitude, you better change that attitude. What's with the attitude? But what is an attitude? We all have them. And it's very interesting to look at the subject from the point of view of how our attitudes could block us in our schoolwork. For example, let's look. Attitudes really it's the way we evaluate the world. It's what we like and what we don't like. So we can have a negative or positive view of something. We could even have a bit of ambivalence about something. We're not quite sure. There's certain positive things, some negative things. But basically, our attitudes are the way we evaluate the external world. Now, attitudes are developed often very unconsciously. We develop them from childhood. We pick up on the attitudes of our parents and those around us. As we grow older and our peers and our school friends become more important to us, we kind of socially compare what our attitudes are like to theirs because we all want to fit in. So attitudes can then be developed in relationship to other people. We also might have an experience, and that one-off experience could lead us to form a particular attitude about something, but it's based on one experience, and it can color our attitude. And the thing is that our attitudes are the way we filter the world, and we can even ignore things that don't confirm our particular attitude. We kind of don't notice them, or we discredit them, because we also like to think that we are right. So our attitudes are right. So it also forms part of a kind of self-esteem and our self-identity of who we are. But as I mentioned earlier, these things are often formed unconsciously, which means if we don't examine our attitudes, we could very well be living very much unconsciously. And attitude actually, I know you might not want to hear this, but attitude is everything. There are so many people who are bright, intelligent, but their attitude blocks them in the workplace. It blocks them in life. It blocks them in relationships. So attitude is actually key, and it's everything. But let's look at how our attitudes could influence the way we perform at school, the way we view school. So let's think about it for a minute. Tell me, what do you think about school? How do you feel about your teachers? How do you feel about the education department? What do you tell yourself when you're going to school every day? What are some of the challenges and difficulties that you might have? So think in terms of what are your thoughts? So if you need to pause this video to think and actually write down, it would be highly helpful for you to write down some of your attitudes and how you feel about your schoolwork. and going to school and the education system. Right. So what we can do is I'm going to show you some of the attitudes that I've thought up. See what you think. See if you've said any of them. For example, have you heard people say, I was at the back end of the queue when brains were being handed out? Now that's meant to be funny, but we say that thing. But sometimes we often say things in a joke that we might really believe. So do you believe that maybe you were not given a sufficient amount of intelligence when it was handed out? So do you in any way tell yourself that? Because what I could just interject here with, there's a whole school of thought and research going on about how we program ourselves through our speech. So what we tell ourselves, that internal way we talk to ourselves, actually programs the way, who we are and why we behave the way we do. So recognizing and not allowing these unconscious thoughts to just continually bombard us is important for us to be able to remove obstacles, because what they actually form are these huge obstacles before we can even get to our schoolwork. Okay, so that's one. I was at the back end of the queue. Right, next one. I'm just stupid. Have you ever told yourself that? I don't know why the schools teach some of these subjects. I'm never going to use them again. The education system's in a mess, so it's no wonder that I don't do very well. My math is poor because the teacher's stupid. She doesn't know how to teach. Oh man, I just goof around all year and then I cram before the exams. All I need is 51% to pass. Any percentage over that is an overinvestment and a waste of time. It's not fair. They give us far too much homework. The subject is so easy and I'm so bored, so why bother? What about this one? Only nerds with gogs will take their learning seriously. I'm a hero, the main guy. If I sit in detention and if I flunk school, it's actually clever. My friends will laugh at me if I take school seriously. I can't wait to finish school. I'll burn my books and I never want to study again. I'm too old to learn. How does that, have you said any of those things to yourself? Think about it, be honest. There's probably a lot more that you can think of and that might really pertain to how you feel about your schooling. But if we really look at these attitudes will determine how we behave. I mean, for example, if you look at, oh, I'm just stupid. How hard are you and I going to try if we just presume that we're stupid? These are all putting us into the victim mode. They're not helping us. None of these attitudes here, if you really examine them, are helpful and necessarily true. What do you mean you're stupid? I mean, have you got a medical certificate that says there's something wrong with you? Or have you been intellectually, have you been diagnosed as intellectually disabled? But if you're in mainstream school, you can assume that you really have average, normal, whatever intelligence. So being the victim and presuming that you're stupid is really going to take up so much emotional energy and be such a big block. I mean, how much effort are you going to do? None of us like to do something that we think we're going to fail at. We'd rather not try. So it's a huge attitude problem. I love this one. Oh, I hate it. I don't know which way it is. It says, I don't know why schools teach some of these subjects because we'll never use them again. Now, I know a lot of people say that. And really, it actually irritates me. Because do you guys go to gym? Do you do weightlifting? Why do you do that? We don't go through life like this. We don't go through life doing push-ups, but you're developing muscles. And why do you need those muscles? You're going to need those muscles to play sports, to pick up things, to keep your body healthy. So yes, nobody does futile things like that in everyday life, but we need our muscles. Now, one's brain is a muscle. So these so-called stupid subjects that we learn at school are actually laying the foundation of how our brain will work for the future. Now, in one or two of our upcoming ones, we're going to be learning about the brain. But believe me, the brain is a muscle and it needs to be used. And it's not important, the actual subject. What is important is that all the neurons are making connections and pathways in your brain, and your brain is being strengthened, and it's able to think and to calculate and to scheme and to plan and to memorize. Skills we need for life. So just sitting back and thinking, well, I don't need that subject, I'm not going to develop my brain. It's the same as saying I'm not going to exercise because when am I ever going to do push-ups, sit-ups, whatever? What about all I need is 51% to pass? Anything else is an overinvestment. Well, let's be honest. Do you like 51% of customer service? Would you be happy to get in an aeroplane when the pilot only passed at 51%? So let's get real here. Why be satisfied for mediocre results? I mean, really, to get 51%, it means 49% of your work you don't know. Why be satisfied with getting, and isn't this the problem with the world today? Let's be honest, is that people want to get away with the least possible effort. And how does that stand in their way? How does it affect them right throughout their lives? Immensely, if we need to be honest. The subject's too easy, I'm bored. Well, why not get 100% for it then? Why not put the effort in where you know it backwards, and you can add to the subject and you can get 100%. Imagine what that does to your self-esteem. What about this? I can't wait to finish school because then I'll finish learning. Well, in this day and age, that's not going to happen because we're part of a culture of lifelong learning. And heaven alone knows how the world is going to look after the coronavirus and what the economic situation is going to be. And you as young people are going to have to really think and learn and relearn. I mentioned in my first video that they say that the illiterate of the 21st century are not those that can't read and write, but they are the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. If you just think in terms of technology, think of where many older people are. We've seen so many changes. Think in terms of your grandparents. I mean, how hard they're finding technology because the world has moved. And those who can't move with it actually get left behind. So developing your brain and ability to think and reason and plan and memorize and problem solve are critical skills for survival in the 21st century. So those are just some of the attitudes I've highlighted. And I'd like to really sincerely encourage you to look at what your attitudes are, because your attitudes will determine your altitude. I don't know if any of you have heard, there's an amazing story. There was a film on it. A girl, well, she's now a woman, called Liz Murray. If you want to do yourself a favor, there's a film out on it. It's called From Homeless to Harvard. And you can Google it, Liz Murray. She had the most atrocious life. Her mother couldn't hold down a job and she had HIV/AIDS. And this girl was often hungry, and eventually her mother died at 15. And this Liz was homeless somewhere in America. She was homeless, and she missed school for a number of years because, with all the drama of looking after her mother and trying to find food, they even ate toothpaste and sucked ice sometimes because they were so hungry. Anyway, her story is amazing because she decided at 15, she begged, borrowed, stole to get into school, and she had nowhere to live. So she used to study and sleep on the railway station or inside people's, in the apartment by the stairs, underneath someone's stairs. She would stay in the library at school until they kicked her out. So she was homeless, but she caught up. I can't remember the full story, but in a minimum amount of time, she reached her matric levels. And then there was an amazing opportunity for the New York Times, I think it was, said that they would sponsor someone to Harvard if they wrote their story in as to why they deserved it. Well, she wrote her story in, and guess what? She was chosen, and she went on to Harvard. And I think now she's a motivational speaker in America. That's just one of many stories that show, with the right attitude, you can make up your mind that I can do this. So let's get attitudes out the way. Have the courage and the maturity to identify your attitudes and to have the self-awareness and insight to know which ones are really standing in your way and preventing you from becoming who you really are. I hope this session has been helpful to you, and I look forward to coming back. And I think the next one we're going to be doing, I think, is about intelligence. So I hope you'll join me again, perhaps tomorrow or the next day. I will post this on our EduNique, the Stress Whisperer website, and not the website, on our Facebook page. Actually, I will load it on my website. Just give me a day or 2 or 3 to do that, and I will do it. Please leave any messages or comments below in the comments section on this Facebook page, and I'd love to know what you think and whether this is helpful. Right. Listen, have a great day. Stay safe. Wash your hands, and we're going to get through this together. Thank you. Bye.